welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are taking part in the 5 Builders 1 City collaboration. And it's my week, and I'm very excited to take over this city. In this third round, what our main goal is to really make this city feel complete, and that is bringing all of our industries and all of our districts that can level up to level 5 and all of our facilities to level 5 as best we can. But in addition, we want this city to feel complete. So for this round, I have a couple of things that I am going to try to do. Number one, when we look at our downtown area, we notice that there is a pretty significant disconnect between the downtown area and some of the other areas. So I'm going to plat out a few neighborhoods and make some connections through here. Second, when in the previous round, when I was working on Manitou Shores, I mentioned that I wanted to create a nature reserve park, and I'm going to create that right here. And then finally, I want to continue to work on this industrial area, or an industrial area, because we have a number of unique factory buildings that now that we have all of our industries built, we can place in the city. But I do want to take a moment to just admire the work that the other builders are doing. It's really fun to watch this series and watch the city evolve. As a participant, I'm still a fan of the other creators and of the work that they're doing, and it's really exciting for me to be able to take a look at what they've done and really kind of take inventory of what they're up to, and it's a lot of fun for me. So I'm really appreciating this. So without any further ado, today I want to build out some suburban areas. So right now we have, this densely populated downtown area in Zardis built, a small suburban community over here, and I thought it might be nice to continue that pattern this episode. So we're going to really be focusing on this RCI meter and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the city while we're expanding. So I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about suburban planning theory. So there are a lot of curvy roads in suburbs, and there are rationale for those roads that you may or may not agree with. So in years gone by, when a neighborhood was being developed, you might just see a grid pattern, just wholesale throughout the entire neighborhood. And you don't really see that as often today. And one of the main reasons for that is we factor in a lot of environmental features at this point, whether that's topography, trying to make sure that we're not disturbing slopes as much as possible. It could be trees and forest cover. These are all things that we want to be mindful of and cognizant of when we're planning new neighborhoods. So this is a game. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to try to plan this in that mindset. I don't necessarily agree with that all the time. I do think that people can take it overboard when they're planning new neighborhoods, and you do need to take some liberties at times, but that is kind of the main operating principle at this point in time in terms of just overall roadway networks. Now, why roads get crazy at times, like you have over here in Sardis's area? A couple reasons for that. Number one, a developer is trying to maximize the amount of land that they can develop. So in some cases, you'll see cul-de-sacs or eyebrows, which are those things that kind of just jet out of a road and allow 4 houses or 5 houses instead of 2. You'll see stuff like that because a developer is trying to maximize their saleable land. And one of the things that's a challenge is as prices increase on land, there's always going to be this desire to pack more and more in. So that's one of the reasons you see smaller lot sizes in some cases, or a larger lot with a very expensive house because they're trying to recoup some of those costs. So that's one of the reasons that happens. If you were to simply create a grid and try to respect the topography and maintain existing natural space, you would likely not have as efficient I guess efficient is maybe the wrong word, but you might not have as many saleable lots. Now, do I agree with that? No. Does it necessarily matter as a planner how I feel about that? Sometimes, and sometimes not. You gotta remember, all of this stuff is being approved generally by elected officials. So sometimes a planner will come in and say, this is not good design for X, Y, and Z reason. And regardless of that, an elected official might determine that it's the right choice for the community. So it can be frustrating. I will be completely upfront with you with that, but it's also a reality that we have to deal with. So we're going to deal with that reality here as well. So what I'm doing is I'm starting out with this neighborhood with my collector roadway network. And this is going to be the primary way that people come into the neighborhood, load into the area. And it's going to make a connection to this roundabout, to this series of collectors over here, and to this arterial over here. And beyond that, there's not going to be much other exterior connectivity. This is going to be a low-density neighborhood. So having a bunch of connections to the interstate, well, it might be desirable. We're not going to do it because those are challenging to get. So we will avoid that for the time being. We might make some of these roundabouts as we're going through. Okay, so now we have a network that we can work with. So we are going to have portions of this neighborhood that are going to be gridded. Much of it is going to follow this roadway network. And then where we have trees, we're going to try to preserve those and have lots going into them. And having nice forested lots. So I guess the other consideration with lot design is, a lot of this comes down to preferences. If people's preference is that lots are of a certain size and there are certain amenities, far be it for the planner to say no. We are, ultimately market responsibilities matter, or market realities matter. So we're sometimes responding to those realities. So here, this is a cul-de-sac. We are going to make another roadway connection through here. But for the most part, we're going to leave these trees undisturbed. So I'm just trying to mirror what's happening here. I am going to leave some larger spaces within this area because I could use those for schools or other needed services. Okay, and I did add a small cul-de-sac here. And I don't love the height, so even though I said we're going to try to respect the topography, here we are, lining things up. Oh, just kidding, that's terrible. So maybe we'll just leave that as is, and we probably should play, or at least pay a little bit more a little bit closer attention to the terrain as we go about this, because that is not necessarily desirable. Okay, so at this point, I kind of want to have a ring of roads on the outside of here that is giving us the ability to have some normal blocks. We're going to have commercial along this collector. I'm not going to be all that concerned with some things that you might expect me to be concerned with. So like right here, this isn't perfect. I'm not overly concerned about that. Maybe let me see if I can try to stretch this out a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. I think I made it worse. So, and then I think over here, we're going to try to, again, mirror this forested area. And then we'll have a connected roadway network, but we are going to preserve those forests. So there will be a logic to this. It just might not be one that you necessarily would think of or agree with. I brought that in at a 90. I think that's very helpful from a safety standpoint. Anything you can do to attempt to have a 90-degree angle at an intersection is a good thing. So when you're platting neighborhoods, often the arterial and collector roadway network will be laid out by the city. And one of the things that'll be on the plats are restrictions for access. So it might make sense, just looking at this from above, to make a connection over to this collector, but I'm going to pretend that there is a plat restriction there that restricts the amount of access that I can have to that collector. And as a result, rather than just cutting in, we're going to have this turn from the local road. And over here, we will deviate a bit, try to protect some of these trees. And now I'm going to use the freeform tool to connect these roads up, because I can mirror them really nicely this way. Now this land would absolutely be developed. It has very good visibility, so this would be a good either office or commercial lot. The access here isn't great. So destination type retail, destination type uses would certainly be desirable. Or would work well in this kind of area. So things that need a lot of access, think fast food, things like that, they wouldn't work over here. Now, I think if you are a regular viewer of my channel, you would know that I am not a huge fan of cul-de-sacs. But if we are going to design this in the typical suburban style, we would certainly have them here. If you are not a regular viewer of my channel, and this is one of your first exposures to me, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. Interesting. So I've never seen this tiny cul-de-sac option, and it's interesting. I want to see if I can fix this. Well, that doesn't look any good. Maybe it's a little better, and maybe I can... Yeah, no, I don't love this. So I think I will continue to stick with the alley roads that I was using for the cul-de-sac. At least, in my opinion, they look a little bit cleaner. Okay, so let's get the last few bits of this neighborhood platted out, and then we will work in our land uses. So I already have in my mind an idea of what these land uses will be based on the location of these particular, based on the location of everything in this neighborhood right now and the roadway network that's being developed. So we're going to, it's pretty straightforward, and I will explain those in just a moment. Let me finish up this roadway network. Okay. So this is a really big block. I might divide this one up. And after that, I think I might just be satisfied. Well, I'm never satisfied. So, okay. So there's still kind of a grid in here. There's still a network that is discernible. You can still make it out. It still makes some sense. But it's certainly suburban in style, but not... So there are some suburban designs that I might just call belligerent. Just like, it's a developer clearly just doing everything in their power to absolutely maximize their saleable land. And I like to believe that in the city of collaboration, we're better than that. So we are going to not do that. That said, I am going to take stock of some of these areas, knowing that a developer is going to look at this and go, well, there's land here. Why am I not using it? There's land here. Why am I not using it? So I was looking to see if maybe this 2-lane road that I've been using is in that list. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be. I'm just going to place these last couple of cul-de-sacs in here, and I will upgrade them all at once. Okay. So the next thing I want to do as I'm planning this out is to get some paths through here. So that's one thing that you'll see in some of these disconnected neighborhoods is path connections all the way through the neighborhood. And that's the next best thing. And one of the things I've learned in my career is if you don't do these up front, they never get built. Even if you have an easement. What an easement is, it's basically it's a document that gives another property the right to do something on your property forever. It's contractually, it's a contract, so it's something that ideally should always be enforced. So you have these for a variety of reasons. So you will likely have an easement in the rear of your house or the front of your house for utilities. You'll have some for water pipes in some cases, and you can have them for pedestrian connections. And often, if for whatever reason these connections are not built right up front, they don't get built. So just something to be aware of, and a rationale in my mind to get them done right up front. Or at least that's, in my career, a personal ambition is to make sure that anytime there's a multi-use path or a sidewalk and an easement, it's built right away. So I'll do it in the game too. Makes me feel good. And it means I'm using less eminent domain. Something in the real world I'd never be able to do. Not for a sidewalk. I'm kind of just meandering these through the trees, create a nice pleasant walk. This could be a park space if we wanted it to be, but I think it's just fine as a neighborhood amenity, something that all the neighbors know about, that makes them proud of their neighborhood. It makes them realize what a great place they live in, without it necessarily being a regional destination. And it gives the kids the ability to walk to their neighbor, even if their neighbor's quite a ways away. And the parents can feel good about that because it's a safe off-street connection. Okay, so I feel pretty good about these connections. I do think it would be nice to have a quick way to get to the industrial district. If for some reason you were to live over here and work over there, being able to walk to work would be fantastic. And it's something that we shouldn't overlook. Okay, so we've got some nice connections there. And now just kind of the finishing touches on these connections. Ooh, that is ugly. So maybe we'll try to make this a little bit better. Oh, I like that so much more. Okay, so I think we've given some nice connections through here. Now, our biggest need, obviously, is commercial. So I think that we're going to focus mostly on commercial along this collector. So let's get that zoned now. Well, actually, maybe we should get some... Maybe we should get some water pipes in here. We'll place them underneath the road where they belong. Okay, and much like the roadway network, there are some oddities in this water network, but it will work. Let's get some education in here. So I was going to just start zoning, but we really should start thinking about the types of facilities that we need in this area. And obviously education is a significant need. So I think we're going to need at least 2 elementary schools for coverage here. We do not want to place those on a collector if at all possible. We don't want to place those on a cul-de-sac. I think that would be land that would be held in high esteem for many people. And then I want 1 centrally located high school. We'll have 1 firehouse, 1 police station. We'll have a clinic. I think we're also going to have a cemetery, and one of the reasons I want to have the cemetery is because of the church that comes with it. I think this would be a good spot for it. It has trail access, it's quiet, it's serene. There are There's a forest around it. So to me, this is a location that makes a ton of sense. And because this is so close to downtown, I would imagine that this is going to be a very valuable area at some point. So we're going to want to make sure that we have some very high quality, the other city services in the area are very high quality. So I want to have a child health center and a elder care facility. We kind of have a little node of kind of government type uses. So I might break with what I normally say about having loading uses on these major roads, and I will have the elder care facility there. And that's not going to load all that much. And then in some of these wooded areas, I think it might be neat to have a yoga garden or a sauna. So we'll sneak those back there as well. Would seem to be pretty logical locations for these types of uses. And I want to think about parks, but I'm also thinking about schools. I think that there could be the potential to have a private school back here. So we're going to have one community school, and we'll kind of centrally locate that to the other uses that are back here. Okay, so now I want to get playgrounds next to all the schools, and I want to decorate around the high school as well. So I'm going to put small parks or playgrounds near all of these schools that we just placed. And then near the high school, which is right here, I'm okay having these loading uses over here. So we'll have basketball court and a tennis court. And that fits in really well there. Now, the other thing I want to think about is just general parks in this area. So I want to see if there are places where I can fit in large parks. Again, for the large parks, I'm not going to be overly concerned if they end up encroaching a little bit into either the green space or if they are on loading roads that would have a great deal of loading otherwise. In fact, I'm thinking it might be kind of neat to have a double park right here, and then we'll add trails to all of these. We'll have one dog park. Like I often say, a developer's secret weapon is offering up a dog park in land that would otherwise be maybe a little bit undesirable. So I think next to the cemetery might be a place that is a little bit undesirable. Like that's a challenging sell. Let's build your brand new house next to the cemetery. So it certainly happens, but I think it's a tougher sell, especially in a greenfield area like this when there are so many other great saleable lots. So just adding a couple other small parks in here, really in areas where the land wouldn't be sold. So if you look at this, there's no development right here that's going to be able to occur based on the roadway network. So having a park encroach upon that would make a lot of sense to me. And now we can make some path connections between these parks that we've just put down and the rest of the neighborhood. Okay, and I think we have decent connections to every other area. Maybe I will make a couple of connections. So we have this roundabout here that does have sidewalks. Why don't I go ahead and make some pedestrian connections through the park to this road so people do not have to potentially have any conflicts here with vehicles. Okay, so now we're ready to zone. And I'm excited to get this going. So there's no zoning currently on this collector, and I'm not sure exactly the rationale behind that, but I am going to try to make this a cohesive area by zoning this. So I'm trying to be thoughtful about where I'm placing these uses. I do want to make sure that they are along the collector, and I want to reserve all the rest of the land for residences if at all possible. because ultimately I think that's going to be the highest need in this area. Okay, and I do want to have a fence along this arterial or a path or something. I do not at all want zoning to occur here. And we don't have some of the mods that allow us to prevent zoning to occur on this road enabled here, so I will have to force the issue myself. But truthfully, this is a pretty good solution. I like doing it like this. I think that it makes a ton of sense. All right, so now we have all of that commercial zoned, and things are going to start springing up. In fact, they already are. So that's a good thing. Now I want to plan out our residential. Now I know that we have some industrial demand, and we could try to sneak in a couple of offices. If we were to do that, I'd want to make sure that there's a height restriction here. That said, why don't we give this a district? This is a neighborhood at this point. The Daffodil District. Good enough for me. All right, so now that we have that, I can make sure that we have a high-rise ban here. And if we have that, I'm comfortable putting in a few different office buildings, because we can at least make sure that they're lower in terms of height. So I do want this to be kind of a higher value area. So we're gonna have a parks and recreation boost, education boost. We're gonna have a smoking ban, and to really drive people to this area, let's have free public transportation, and we will add a route to this area. And this is not going to be a dense enough area to ever have any sort of transit that's better than a bus. And truthfully, the only road that's going to qualify for bus service is likely this collector going through here. But it's important that we get that route established early on, and we are going to do that. Let's get a couple of office uses in here, though. Just a few. Okay, and with that, I said just a few, and I meant just a few. I'm going to place the residential uses, and I'm going to try to really think about the location of the trees and not encroach too much, and then we're going to add some additional trees after the fact. So sometimes when neighborhoods are developed, you'll see that on the plat itself, and again, the plat is the document that is actually used to lay out the neighborhood. On the plat, you'll actually see that space is reserved for existing trees. It's not an easement. You don't want to make sure that you don't want it to be so that people are required to maintain those trees in their existing state. So you don't want to have that in an easement, but you might want to plan your easements around those trees and then let the property owner make their decisions about what's going to happen there in the future. So in my mind, when this is being laid out, these parcels would kind of duck in around those existing trees, and then you'd have some trees get planted in areas where, you know, maybe it would have made sense to have some trees planted. So I mentioned office along the highway or commercial. I think I'm going to do a mix of the two. So this will buffer the neighborhood from some of those, some of the externalities of being so close to the highway, and provide them some services within walking distance. So just because it's a suburban area doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to walk to things, at least in my mind. And I'm being really careful not to zone in the center of all these roundabouts. That wouldn't be very reasonable. You wouldn't expect to see that sort of thing take place, so I'm going to avoid doing it. Okay, just a few more lots and this entire neighborhood will be zoned. So I'm going to take care of those right now. That's kind of near this first area that we've laid out. Now here I am going to deviate from that some. And I will have some zoning within here. That's not really a roundabout. That's more just of like a way or a circle. I guess is what the street might be named. You might be wondering why I didn't give any distance or space in between these lots. The main reason is we are still very close to downtown, so this land is still very valuable. Space is at a premium, and you would expect, or at least I would expect, that you wouldn't have many large, spread out, sprawling estates out here. You'd have a fairly urban sort of layout in terms of suburbs, I guess. So we are having significant power problems. I think I'm going to place a temporary power line just so we don't lose all this development, and I'll eliminate that in the future. And let's speed this up and watch it fill in a little bit. And I apparently brought Verde Beach with me because I have this this area just outside of this new neighborhood burning down as we watch this cinematic. I'm very, very curious about what's happening here, and if there's actually any fire coverage in this area. Yeah, I don't see anyone coming to help. This is really disturbing. So I'm going to slow this down and let's take a look. Yeah, holy cow, this is not good. So we need a fire watchtower somewhere in this district. So I believe this was Biffa's forestry district, and it's a 5-star forestry district, and it's burning down. It's right by the Biffabout. So not great. Okay, and just adding that watchtower got these guys over here, but I wonder if we want to do better. Because there's a lot of trees over here, and I plan on adding some more. And the last thing I want to do is create a situation where this area is constantly burning down and it's all my fault. So why don't we create kind of an outpost over here? This is a local road over here. Not a lot going on, but I do think it could be an ideal location to have... Oh, actually... There is zoning all up and down here that's not being fulfilled yet. Well. Let's add a road in here. And then right here we will add this. I think we want to lower this down a little bit. We've certainly got some topographic challenges. We could do a little bit of grading to clean that up. Probably should. Might not. So, oh, and look at those water pipes right underneath the road. I love it. And I believe this is going to have power. Yeah, perfect location because of that. And then they'll be able to go get water right here and put the fires out right there, which is good because I really don't want this new neighborhood to burn down, and we are looking like we're heading that way. Let's speed this up a little bit and see what happens. Okay, so we planned this entire neighborhood around the idea of preserving the forest and not disturbing it. And unfortunately, Mother Nature has disturbed the forest. So this person bought their parcel and they were thinking, I'm going to have an excellent view of this forest. And instead they have it's kind of a disturbing landscape behind their home. I guess it's good from this direction. You still get to see trees out your kitchen window, assuming your kitchen is at the front of your house. Well, at least they still have a lot of businesses in close walking proximity, so they could walk to things. The trees will come back. So, that said, the fire didn't take out the industry, and that's probably the most important thing to consider and think about. So I do think I want to place a few more trees in this area. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm realizing I did not set a style here, and I do not like that at all. So I am going to set the vanilla style here so we don't have any of these European buildings popping up. So we are going to lose a little bit of what has happened here, which is unfortunate, but ultimately for me, I think it's worth it. It's the look I'm going for. Okay, and with that, I feel fairly confident in knowing that I have provided plenty of Tinder for future fires. So we're going to have lots of issues because I brought the Verde Beach issues with me. One issue I'm not going to bring with is lightning strikes. So we'll get rid of those. They're unnecessary. So things are going to continue to progress over here, and I'm feeling good about it. One thing we need is a bus route. So there are some existing routes over here, and I know that Zardis worked really hard on making these work. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and do a bunch of things that might disturb what he's already done, I'm going to just create a new route through here. So one of the things I'm going to struggle with is if I go up this collector, I need a place to turn around. So this is a local route, so I want to focus on accessibility, so we're going to have a number of stops through here. Actually, this will be an express route, so we'll have a number of stops in the area that we're serving, and then we will hightail it down to this transit center here. We'll mirror those stops on both sides of the road. Now, truthfully, now that I'm thinking about this, I think we're going to loop this down here. And then we'll eliminate that stop. And I think that this will do exactly what I was hoping. We can even serve this school. So I think that this isn't necessarily the worst configuration in the world. We do want to separate these stops. In fact, maybe these ones aren't necessary. Make everyone sad. So yeah, this will work well. So it's a nice express route. I did notice that we are missing some water pipes. So I added some commercial along this arterial or this collector, and Zardis wisely did not put water pipes where there was going to be no development. And then I sold his land to developers, and as a result, we need to have some sort of water service there. So the very last thing I want to do here is take a look at our junctions, because we're going to have stoplights all over here. Now, I would normally prioritize this road, but I'm afraid of what it's going to do all throughout. Actually, I'm not afraid of what it's going to do. I think that this needs to be prioritized. So let's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I can't do that because of Traffic Manager. So I'm just going to go through and make a couple of changes here. Add stop signs instead of stop lights. Okay, so basically what I've done here is I've gone through and I've taken all of the local road connections to this collector and turned off the signalized intersections there. In the game, they're not warranted. In most of the time in real life, they're not warranted. So there are actually criteria to meet warrants to actually get a signal, and I just don't think that it would be necessary at really any of these. The only place where you could potentially see that would be in the downtown area, but even here it's going to function more effectively if we have stoplights only at the collector junctions. So I think we're in a good place with this now. I want to look at traffic throughout this area. It's kind of functioning as I would expect. This would be a fairly busy road, even though we have this arterial right here. The arterial is not the most direct connection, and I think that people would use this collector because it's a much easier connection. It's got nice access to the interstate here, nice direct access through downtown. We've prioritized it with the way that we've set our signals. And you get to access that collector, or this arterial too. So I think it's overall a pretty desirable junction, and you could access the interstate again over here. So it's a pretty good setup for most people, or I think it would be anyway. So, and with that, we've had a pretty significant expansion of this area. I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. Well, and our trees are growing back, and as we zoom through time, you'll see that this whole neighborhood is filling in, and I think it's going to look really good over time. Certainly some things we could improve. You know, we've got some grading stuff here. Actually, I can't leave it like that. So what I like to do is grade beyond the edge of where it's bumpy, at that level that it is becoming bumpy, and then take my brush strength to about 50%, make my feathering tool significantly bigger than the tool I was using to level, and you'll end up with these really nice curves where I think it feels a little bit more natural. So I like to do that. The other thing I do sometimes is I'll take landscaping and use that as my way to hide things. So either way, it works just fine. And you can see that makes a world of difference. This path connection needs some work now because of what I just did, but it's still a significantly better connection in my mind. And the grades are much, much, much better. I don't love this curve, but it's fine. So I'm not going to get overly finicky about it. I think in some cases it's best to leave good enough alone. So with that, I'm going to end this here. I am very, very, very pleased with how this turned out. I'm even okay with the fire. Makes me feel like I'm at home. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider hitting that like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. And if you're not subscribed to any of the other creators' channels, please consider doing so. We are all working hard to bring you this content, and we hope that you enjoy it. If you want to be notified when I release new videos, hit the notification bell. And I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate your support. If you ever want to talk with me about the builds, I encourage you to join my Discord server. The link is in the description and on my channel page. And as always, I'm going to leave you with a city tour. Thank you. Bye-bye.